So, welcome back to Subliminal Signals. Of course, I'm Carlton, and we are now 11 episodes into this journey of identifying and resetting the thought patterns that keep us stuck in cycles we don't even recognize. Now, if you've been following along, you know we've tackled some major internal blocks. We've talked about feeling behind, perfectionism, needing certainty, people pleasing, timing excuses, success sabotage, even comparison traps. But today's subliminal signal might be one that's keeping your greatest value locked away from the world. It's a signal that makes you hoard your knowledge instead of sharing it. The voice that convinces you that your experience doesn't count as expertise. The thought that keeps you consuming information instead of contributing your wisdom. Today's signal is I need to be an expert before I can share my knowledge. And if you just felt that familiar voice whispering in the back of your mind, but what if I don't know enough yet? Then this episode is going to challenge everything you think about expertise, authority, and your right to have a voice. Let me start by dismantling the biggest lie our culture tells us about experience and expertise. That it's some magical threshold you cross after accumulating enough credentials, experience, or knowledge. That there's some objective panel somewhere that hands out expert certificates when you finally have learned enough. But let me tell you the truth. Expertise isn't a destination. It's a recognition. It's not something you become after meeting a certain criteria. It's something others acknowledge when you help them solve problems they can't solve themselves. And you don't need to know everything about a subject to be valuable to someone who knows less than you. And you don't need to be the world's leading authority to be the right authority for the person who needs exactly what you know. But somewhere along the line, we've been convinced that expertise requires perfection, that you can't share your knowledge until you've mastered every possible angle, until you've anticipated every question and become unquestionably qualified. But that's just the expertise trap. It's waiting to share what you know until you know everything. And that keeps you from making your most valuable contributions. You're essentially locking them away while people who need your perspective struggle without it. So let me tell you the story of a reluctant expert. This was a client of mine and a friend. His name was David. 15 years in supply chain management. He had worked in optimized operations for 3 different Fortune 500 companies. He saved his current company over $2 million in inefficiencies. This is the kind of guy that the colleagues came to when they had complex logistical problems. But you see, David had been thinking about starting a consulting practice for 2 years at that point, and he just couldn't pull the trigger. Here was his reason. I'm not ready yet. I need to learn more about digital transformation. I should get some more certifications. Maybe I should go back and get my MBA first. I mean, I know supply chains, but am I really an expert? Meanwhile, listen, David was spending his weekends helping friends with their small business logistics for free. One friend's e-commerce business went from losing money to profitable in 3 months because of David's advice. Another friend had launched a successful Etsy store using some systems that David had helped him design. So when I pointed this out to him, I was like, hey, you're already doing it. He was like, yeah, but this is just like the common sense stuff. Like any supply chain person, knows how to do this. But that's how the expertise trap works, right? He was so close to his own knowledge. Like he knew, like he was so close to it. He couldn't see how valuable it was to people who didn't have it. He was comparing himself to other supply chain experts instead of recognizing how much he knew compared to the business owners who desperately needed his help. And here's what happened when David finally stepped into his expertise. He realized that his experience wasn't just knowledge, it was wisdom. It wasn't just information, it was insight. It wasn't just what he knew, it was how he thought about problems and how he thought about the problems that other people couldn't solve. And here's how this works in your brain. This is what happens when you get stuck in the, I'm not an expert, in that I'm not an expert thinking. Your brain has something that we'll call the curse of knowledge. Once you know something well, you literally can't imagine not knowing it. And this is what makes you undervalue your own expertise because it feels obvious and basic to you. Because it's so obvious. It's at the same time your brain has what psychologists call the Dunning-Kruger effect. It's in reverse. While people with little knowledge often overestimate their expertise, people with real expertise often underestimate it because they're acutely aware of how much they don't know. Then you've got your inner critic, that voice that's supposed to protect you from like social rejection. It starts generating all the ways that you could be exposed as not qualified enough. Like, what if someone asks you a question that you can't answer? Like, what if someone with more credentials challenges you? What if you're wrong about something? See, your brain creates an almost impossible standard. You have to know everything before you can share anything. It's telling you have to be perfect before you can be helpful. You have to be the absolute best before you can be good enough. But what you and your brain don't understand is that people don't need you to be perfect. Believe me, I'm not. They need you to be helpful. They don't need you to know everything. They need you to know more than they do about a specific problem that they're facing. So when I'm working with folks and, I see really 4 common patterns of this expertise anxiety. So I want you to think about these 4 and see if you see yourself in any of these. Number 1 is the credential collector. I'm going to point at Carlton for this one. I need more certifications. I need more degrees. I need more training before I can position myself as an expert. I've always felt like I needed to keep getting more certs. I needed to do more, learn more things, but never teach them, collect more credentials, but never actually claim any of the authority that these credentials give. Then there's the perfectionist paralysis. And I know I have a really good friend who falls into this trap, right? I need to know every possible answer before I can share anything. They won't speak up until they're 100% certain that they're going to get it right. If you've ever done any of those personality tests, like the DISC survey, DISC, these are your C's. These are the people where every I has to be dotted and every T has to be crossed before we can go forward. Next is the comparison competitor. And these are these are folks that are already experts in the field. Or I should say, they say things like they're comparing themselves to other people. They say stuff like, they're already experts in this field who know more than I do. So they focus on the people that are ahead of them instead of who's behind them who really needs to know what they know. And then lastly, we have the imposter identifier. This is the person who's like, I'm not really qualified. I just got lucky and worked hard, figured it out as I went. I also have to point at Carlton for this one. I tend to discount the things that I've done and kind of attribute that knowledge to anything other than actual expertise. I definitely feel like I've been lucky in a lot of ways, very fortunate in getting to where I am at this point. So which of these feels most familiar to you? Because here's the thing. All of these patterns are based on the same false assumption that your expertise is about you instead of about the person that you're serving. So, one of the things that really gets in the way of claiming your expertise is mental fatigue. And when you're tired, your inner critic gets louder, your confidence gets smaller, and your ability to recognize your own value diminishes. So that's why I created, and this episode is sponsored by the Sleep Reset, a 12-minute guided hypnosis session designed to help you fall asleep faster and sleep more deeply, even when your mind is spinning with self-doubt or tomorrow's challenges. The Sleep Reset uses specific neurological techniques to calm your nervous system and guide your brain into restorative sleep patterns. When you sleep better, you wake up with clearer thinking, stronger confidence, and better perspective on your own capabilities. And you can download the Sleep Reset absolutely free at my website. I will post that link in the description, but you can also find it over at kaleidoscopecoaching.com. It's my gift to help you get the rest that makes claiming your expertise feel natural instead of terrifying. Because here's what I know. Well-rested people make better experts. They think more clearly, communicate more confidently, and trust their own knowledge more fully. So grab your free sleep reset at coachingkaleidoscope.com and start experiencing what quality rest can do for your confidence. Now let's talk about how to step out of the expertise trap. And for those of you, speaking of the sleep reset, if you're watching this on YouTube right now, I want you to go into the comments if you're interested in the sleep reset. And I want you to put the word sleep in the comments. That way I know you made it this far in the episode, and I'll get that link right over to you. So here's your reset for the week. Instead of saying, I need to be an expert before I can share my knowledge, I want you to try this. My experience is expertise to someone who needs what I know. But this reset requires you to get specific about what you actually know. So here's an exercise that I'm calling the knowledge inventory. So step 1, I want you to list your experience assets. I want you to think about what have you learned through doing. Not the formal education. We're not talking about your bachelor's degree, your master's degree, your high school diploma. We're talking about the practical experience. What problems have you solved? What systems have you built? What challenges have you overcome? Then I want you to identify your unique perspective. Think about what do you see that others in your field might miss? How do you approach problems differently? And what insights have you gained from specific combinations of experiences? Then I want you to catalog your success stories. When have you helped others? And what problems have you solved for friends or colleagues or family members? What feedback have you received about your knowledge or advice? Step 4, I want you to recognize your teaching methods and teaching moments, I should say. When do people come to you for advice? What questions do you get regularly? And what do people thank you for helping them understand? And finally, step 5, I want you to define your ideal student. Who is 2 to 3 years behind you in your area of expertise? And what do they need to know that you've already figured out? What problems are they facing that you've already solved? The goal isn't to prove that you're the world's leading expert. The goal is to recognize that your experience has created knowledge that can help someone else. Because here's something that might change how you think about expertise entirely. Expertise is relative, not absolute. You don't have to be the best in the world. You just have to be better than the person you're helping. You don't have to know everything. You just have to know more than the person who needs your knowledge. Think about it this way. A first-year medical resident isn't the most qualified doctor in the hospital, but they're still qualified to help patients who need medical care. A high school math tutor isn't a PhD mathematician, but they can help struggling students understand algebra. You see, your expertise exists on a spectrum, and there are people at every point below you on that spectrum who could benefit from what you know. The expertise trap makes you think you need to be at the very top of that spectrum before you can help anyone. But the reality is that you can help people who are 1 step, 5 steps, or even 50 steps behind you. And the beautiful part of that is that helping people who are behind you on the expertise spectrum actually accelerates your own learning. Teaching focus forces you to organize your knowledge, articulate your insights, and see the gaps in your own understanding. It doesn't diminish your expertise, it deepens it. So, I want to give you explicit permission for something that might feel revolutionary. You don't have to know everything to be valuable. You don't have to have all the answers to share the answers that you do have. The most credible experts that I know and that exist aren't the ones who pretend to know everything. They're the ones who are clear about what they do know and honest about what they don't. I don't know, while a hard answer for me to swallow when it's coming from my children, is not the enemy of expertise. It's the companion of integrity. When you're comfortable saying, I don't know, but here's what I do know, or that's outside my area of expertise, but I can help you with this, you actually build more trust, not less. People don't need you to be omniscient, and you can't be. They need you to be helpful within your area of knowledge and honest about the boundaries of that knowledge. So this gives you the permission to start sharing what you know right now. Even if your knowledge has edges, even if there are things you're still learning, even if you're not the final authority on every aspect of your field. So let me tell you how all this worked out for David when he finally stepped out of that expertise trap. He started with just one blog post, just sharing a simple framework he developed for small businesses to optimize their shipping costs. Nothing groundbreaking, nothing revolutionary, just practical knowledge from his 15 years of experience. That post got shared by a small business Facebook group, and it generated 12 consulting inquiries in 1 week. He was blown away. He was telling me, but it's just basic stuff. Any supply chain person would know this. But that's when it began to click for him. He was comparing his knowledge to other supply chain experts instead of to the small business owners who desperately needed exactly what he knew. 6 months later, David has a thriving consulting practice. And he's spoken at 3 different business conferences, small business conferences, and he's working on a book about supply chain optimization for entrepreneurs. Not because he became more of an expert, but because he finally claimed the expertise he'd always had. And that's really the part that matters. You see, David's clients aren't getting second rate advice because he's not qualified enough. They're getting practical, tested, real world solutions from someone who's solved their exact problem dozens of times before. So here's your homework. I want you to practice what I'm calling expertise claiming. First, I want you to start teaching what you know, whether it's writing one blog post or recording one video or having one conversation where you share something you've learned from experience. Don't wait until you know more. Share what you know now. Then I want you to answer questions in your field. I want you to join some online communities, some forums, some groups, or maybe you need to do this in real life. Or not real life, yeah, in real life, like in Meet Space, right? So go and join some groups that are meeting in real life. Like go join an association for your particular area of expertise. Practice giving helpful answers without disclaiming your knowledge. Then I want you to own your experience. When someone asks for advice in your area, don't say, I'm not an expert, but just give your advice. Your experience is your credential. And then I want you to create one piece of valuable content. Turn something you know into something teachable. A checklist, a framework, a process, a story, something that would help someone who's facing a problem you've already solved. And then this is the tough one. I want you to introduce yourself as an expert. Practice saying, I'm a blank specialist. So let me give you myself as an example. I'm going to say, I'm a certified hypnotherapist. I help people reduce stress, improve sleep, and overcome bad habits. And then don't downplay your experience. I remember in my 9 to 5, the company I work for, I think I had been there about maybe 2 years, and I was in a meeting, and I said to one of the folks in the meeting, I said, well, I'm still new here, so I'm still trying to get my lay of the land and really understand. And so after the meeting was over, one of the execs sent me a Teams message and was like, hey, I heard you in the call today and you were saying that you're a new person and you're still learning. He's like, you've been here, over a year. He's like, let this be the last time you make that statement. Don't downplay what you know, just share your experience. And then I want you to notice how it feels to step into your expertise instead of hiding from it. Notice that you do know things other people need to learn. And recognize that your experience has created wisdom worth sharing. So speaking of stepping into your expertise, let me tell you a little bit more or remind you, as I have in just about every episode, about the Story Shift Circle. This is my community where we are growing together as a group. I do live group hypnosis sessions every other week. And it is constantly evolving. So if you've been along this podcast journey with me so far, I've probably mentioned, I think I started the group as a free group, and then we changed it to $9 a month or $50 a year. And then we added a $47 tier and then a $97 tier. It's all these different things going on, right? As I'm trying to figure out what to do with the community, I've decided that I'm just going to leave it at the $9 a month with the $50 a year annual option, because mostly I don't want to be trying to figure out how to monetize the community at the moment. And as long as we have folks at the $9 level, it covers itself. But with that being said, the group is amazing in that we're in there to learn from each other and we're there to grow together. So as we are talking about expertise, I'll be sharing tips that I work with and use with my clients from a hypnotherapy perspective, as well as the mindset work that I do with my coaching clients. So I'll be giving nuggets and sharing resources, sharing these podcast episodes, sharing as much information as I can. But I also want the people inside the community to learn from each other. So, in the way that I'm talking about sharing your expertise out in the world, this is an opportunity for you to do just that. And I'm working on what I call these story playbooks. They're journaling exercises that you can do to kind of capture different stories that you've got in your brain. And this one that I'm working on right now, I'm calling the Expert Within. And this is going to be a system for identifying the knowledge you've been undervaluing and turning it into either some type of content you can share, courses, coaching, or consulting. So hopefully that helps you. But no matter what, I want you to join the group because we have a good time there. We've got about a dozen members, and it's pretty cool to see how people are growing as this is going on. And I'm looking forward to having more people to talk to in the community. So, because here's what I know about expertise. When you invest in claiming yours, you don't just help yourself, you help everyone who needs what you know. So when you step out of the expertise trap and start sharing what you know, something beautiful begins to happen. You don't just help the people who receive your knowledge, you inspire others to share their expertise too. You give people permission to value their own expertise and experiences. You model what it looks like to be helpful without being perfect. You show that expertise is about service, not superiority. And here's what I've observed. When you start claiming your expertise, opportunities start appearing that were invisible before. Speaking opportunities, collaboration invitations, business partnerships, career advances, all because you stopped hiding your knowledge and started sharing it. You see, the world doesn't need you to be the ultimate expert. It needs you to be the accessible expert, the person who can take complex knowledge and make it useful for the people who need it. So, until next time, remember, your experience is expertise to someone who needs what you know. Your knowledge doesn't have to be perfect to be valuable. Your insights don't have to be complete to be helpful. And right now, there are people struggling with problems you've already solved. There are people already asking questions you know the answers to. There are people who need exactly the perspective that your experience has given you. You don't need more credentials. You don't need more knowledge or more time to start sharing what you know. You need the courage to believe that what you've learned matters enough to teach. So thanks for being here, and thanks for considering that maybe your knowledge is more valuable than you think. I want to thank you for being willing to take the step out of the expertise trap and into the service that your experience makes possible. So I'll see you next week with another subliminal signal that's probably keeping you smaller than you're meant to be. Until then, keep resetting and remember, you already know enough to help someone. The question is whether you'll claim that expertise and share it.